In this presentation, we see how to easily build and start from scratch a pretty sophisticated solution made of two applications, one in Europe and the other one in the United States, which rely on a high resilient infrastructure bound to SQL databases that use geo-replication. In addition to the intercontinental replica, each database is replicated 3 times within the same data center, and as we'll see, the synchronization between the two is pretty instantaneous. This is an infrastructure that would surely take a deep study in order to be implemented in-house, and which can instead rely on resources that are created for these purposes. This is the classic homepage for the Microsoft Azure Management Portal. As you can see, there are some menus on the left, then some icons which are just links to internal resources. Now we need to create a new virtual machine that we will use during this presentation. We may do it from here, from the compute menu, but in this case, for better control and clarity, we first prepare the storage space. So we click on Storage Account, then we select Resource Manager as Deployment Model, and then we click on Create. Now we give a name to the storage. So we will use MM16, which are my initials, plus a number, followed by WE, standing for West Europe, and then storage, which is a generic name for the storage. Then we select the subscription because I have more than one, and then we give a name to the resource group. So still MM16, WE group. Well, let's go down now because we have to select the location, which is not West US, but we wanted to put in West Europe, which is here, and by the way, it resides on Amsterdam. Well, we gave all the information needed in this case for creating the storage account, so we check ping to starport, and then we click on Create. So as you can see, the deployment is being performed now. But now we can already create the virtual machine relying on the storage. So we select Compute. There are some images, as you can see, for Microsoft and the Linux machines. Some of them are naked, some are dressed, but now we go to the marketplace because we wanted to select the Windows 10 image enterprise model. So we select in this way and we select this image. We still select Resource Manager as a deployment model, then we click on Create and then we give a name to this machine. So it will be MM16, we VM for virtual machine Windows 10. Okay, then we give a username and password for the administrator of this virtual machine, and then we select the same subscription that I used before, so my MSDN subscription. Then we select not create the resource group, which is MM16 group for Western Europe. Here it is, and the location is correct, so West Europe. So the basics are completed now for this virtual machine, and now we have to move to step 2 to select the size of this virtual machine. There are some sizes here already presented, 3 of them, but we have much more. So if we click on View All, we can see tens of different types of virtual machines, even very different from each other. As you can see, there are even very big machines like this one, GS4, with 16 cores, 224 gigabytes, 32 disks. But we take the D1 machine with 1 core and 3.5 gigabytes of RAM, 2 data disks, which are fine in our case and in general for typical virtual machines. Now we check that the storage account is correct, as it is, that the group is correct, and it is. So we can just click on Create and review the final template where we see that the resource group is correct, MM16, the storage account is correct, MM16 we storage that we created before, as you remember. So we can click on Create, and then again this virtual machine is being provisioned here in the home page. In the meantime, as you can see, the storage was created. Now we wanted to create a web application, but before doing that, as well as we did before, we prepare the storage, which in this case is a SQL DB. So we click on here, we give a name, MM16, we for West Europe, and then SQL DB, because this is the database. Then we will have the server, but we will do in a second. Then we select the subscription, here it is, And then we created the server, because as you know, the SQL database relies on a server. One thing is the database, another thing is the server. So we click on here and we select create a new server, and we give a similar name, ending by SVR rather than DB, MM16, West Europe, and SQL SVR. Then we give the credentials, which are these ones. We confirm the password. The location is fine. And then we go down and we see what else we have to change. Well, V12 is not needed in this case. Okay, that's fine. Then we select a sample database from here, so that the database will not be empty. Adventure Works contains some tables. And then the most important thing is the pricing tier. We select P1 Premium because it has the geo-replication features included. Well, let's go down. The resource group must be chosen the same one that we selected before, West Europe 16. Here it is. And that's it. Pin to startboard and click on create. Now that we have the storage being created, we can move on and create the web application. Let's click on new, and then we select web plus mobile, and then the first entry is web application. We give a name, MM16, and web app. Then we select the subscription, still the same that we selected before, my MSDN subscription. Resource group is not this one, but MM16 West Europe group. Here it is. And then we create a service plan. This is not needed in this case, but for better clarity we do it. So create a new, and then we put a name, MM16, where SDD plan, because it's a West Europe and it's S1 standard pricing tier. Pin to startboard, and we can just click on create. As you can see, there are 3 resources that are being developed, that are being created. But since we have still a few seconds, let's go and create a second SQL database, this time on the west coast of the United States rather than Europe. So we click on SQL, we give a name, in this case we call it MM16 West US, so WU rather than WE, and then SQLDB as we did before. Let's select the subscription, and finally we put the information for the server. So it will have a similar name as the database, ended by SVR, so MM16 WE and SQL SVR. Then we give the administrative username and password. I see an error. I will check in a second, but let's finish doing this task first, because the location is wrong. It's not West Europe, but West US. Okay, let's go down to finish. V12 database type is not needed. Let's check the error now. Server name is already used. Of course, yes, not WE but WU, because WE already exists, and here we are in West US, not Europe. Well, we in this case don't need a sample database, but for the pricing tier we can choose another version much less expensive. $400 a month is too much, even S0. In this case, B basic for $4 a month is fine, because in this case this is a database on which we will replicate the original one that we have in Europe. For the group, we have to create a new group because the other one is located in West Europe, so MM16WU group. And I think everything is okay now. So we can just review and click on create. Pin to startboard, okay, create. Well, in the meantime, the application was created, MM16 web application. So let's click on it, and we can also browse the home page. Well, before doing that, let's close the other tabs. And now let's click on Browse. Well, while the application is being opened, let's do the following thing. On Tools, we can add the extension for Visual Studio Online. We just have to click on Add, choose the extension Visual Studio Online, click OK, OK again. In a second, we will see here the Visual Studio extension ready. We can click on it and then click on Browse as well. So on one side, on the left, we have the home page of the web application. It's pretty simple. On the other hand, we have Visual Studio Online open. Monaco is the code name. We can delete the home page, and now let's go to the Azure web application and let's see how it changes. Well, as you see, if we refresh the page, returns an error. So now let's do a test. Let's create this default HTML page and let's write the classic hello world page with the h1 tag, hello world. Let's close the tag. Okay, and please note that as soon as I finish writing, the page is automatically saved. So if I write something like AAA, you see 30 on the right, but as soon as I stop writing, the page is automatically saved. Okay, so we can go back to the page. Let's refresh it. As you can see, the page is now showing what we expect to see. Now let's remove this page because I have to upload a page that I created before. This is another home page, index.cs C# HTML, which is split in 4 zones. In the first part, we open the connection to the database, and we have the SQL instructions to insert data into the database and to read from the database. And then we have the connection strings. Then we have some CSS style information with the font, color, background, size, and so on. Then we have a form with some input text fields, type text, and so on. And finally, we have a type submit, which means it's a button that we will use to insert information into the database. And finally, here we have a loop, a for each loop that runs through the select result and shows the data. So let's refresh this page. Well, we have an error. And it's a generic error, it's a runtime error, an application error occurred on the server. It's not clear what kind of error it is, and this is because we miss the custom errors section into the web.config file. So let's create the web.config file and paste the information to show the custom errors. Let's refresh the page, and now the error is much more meaningful than before. So it clearly states that we missed the connection string. So we copy this string, the key of the string, and then we come back to the settings of the application settings, and then application settings, and then strings. Let's go here, connection strings, show connection strings, and let's paste the key. Now we need to give a value. And I prepared for this purpose a template for the connection string. Here it is. We need to specify the server and the database plus the credentials. Okay. So first of all, the server name, as we know, is mm16 we SQL SVR, which is appended database.windows.net to be reached. And for the database, we know that it is mm16 we SQL DB. So we can just copy the full string, connection string. Okay, Control C, and then we come back, not here, but to the settings, and we paste it here, and we save. You see the color, it's purple now. In a second, it will be gray as the rest of the page. So we can go here and refresh the page, and we finally see the result of the selection. As you can see, we have the data that were on the database, that are on the database. We still have to do some changes, because if, for example, we insert some information into this page, we try to insert and we click on add, we get another error. The reason is that the other connection string is missing, right? Products to SQLDB connection string. So we can just add it here. By the way, it's the same. The reason is that we need to keep them separated, even if they are the same in this case. We will see later. Let's save this second connection string, and as soon as it's done, let's refresh the page. Here, click again, okay? And now in a second we should see, okay, we still see the information before plus additional information that we just put. Let's do another time with another information that we will insert, and we will see that it's very quick. So as soon as we click add, the new record is shown here below. Well, we still miss something on this page, in particular the image that should be shown in the header section. The reason is that we miss this file, header.png. This file is missing because we haven't loaded on internet anywhere. We will do it soon. We will have to upload this file somewhere, and we will do on our storage account that we created earlier. In order to do that, let's see if the Windows 10 machine is ready. Yes, it is. Okay, here it is. So let's click on it, and let's click on connect here, open the RDP file, and let's use the credentials that we created before to log on this machine. This is the first time we log on this Windows 10 machine. Okay, yes. So it takes a few minutes, but it's been done. Okay, so in the meantime, let's come back to the administration portal. Let's go to the home page and do some considerations on what we did so far. So as we can see, there are some links referring to the resources we created so far. By the way, if we wanted, we may even customize this environment. So we may remember some icons, some links from here, and move others from here to here, and so on, so that we can tailor this environment to our needs and preferences. And once we are ready, we just click right button and done customizing, and then we can even change the color of the background of this page with a double click on the empty part. Okay, so we have the database, we have the virtual machine, we have the application. Let's click on the second database that we created, because we wanted to delete it now. Please note that we are just deleting the database, not the server. So we wanted to delete the database because it will be replaced by our first master database that will replicate on the server, which, as I said, is kept, it's not deleted now on the West US coast. Okay, now let's go to the storage, the storage on West Europe, and let's see its settings, and in particular its properties, showing how we can reach, how we can address this space. Because this string can be used here, I just copied and pasted here, and then we will create a folder, images, and we will put the header file there, so that it will be shown on the application page. Right now it's not there, but we will create it in a second. Now, in order to do that, in order to upload something on our storage space, we have to install an explorer for the web storage. We can find some useful links here for Azure Storage Explorers, and we may choose the first one, Azure Storage Explorer, which fulfills all the basic requirements, and it's even free, so it's perfect for our example. So we can click on it, we can click on the downloads page here, and then rather than installing it here on this machine from which I'm presenting, we will just copy the link and paste on the Windows 10 machine, and we will do everything from here. So let's launch Edge, Microsoft Edge, the browser, and now from here we can download and install the Azure Explorer. It's very fast because we are on internet, the downloading, but even the installation will be pretty quick. So I accept the terms, next, and install. Okay, this will allow me to access to the online storage. Let's launch it. In the meantime, we come back, we can close here, we come back to the credentials. Here we click on the key and we copy the storage account name and the key number 1 or number 2, number 1 in this case. Now we can click on add account, paste the storage account name, and now we need a key. So let's come back and let's take the key 1 for instance, copy and paste. Let's test it, sorry. Okay, account tested successfully, and now we can open it, and as you can see there are 3 folders. The VHDs folder will contain the Windows machine image. Then we create the folder images where we will put the file, the PNG file that we now take from my local machine. So copy, and then we can paste within the virtual machine, Windows 10, in the downloads folder, for instance, one level up. Okay, here, paste. Okay, so now we have the file here on the virtual machine, so we can upload it from here. Click on upload, and then we select the downloads folder, the header file, open, and the file is uploaded. This means that if we come back to the application and refresh the page, we should see here, wow, we see the picture. Okay, so everything is fine. Now, let's come back. Let's go to Web Plus Mobile, and let's create another application that we will locate on the west coast of the United States. Name will be MM16 West US, West U dash web application, web app. Then we select the same subscription that we have been using so far. We can select the group, which is MM16-WU-group. Here it is, in the United States, and then we create a new service plan, MM16-WU-STD plan, and when we select West US as location, and finally we leave pricing tier as one standard. Okay, everything should be okay. We filled all the information, we check pin to startboard and click on create. Now we can even click on the application even though it's not fully provisioned, and in fact we missed some icons, but in a few seconds the application should be ready, and then we will see the other icons. Okay, it's ready just in a few seconds, so I can click on browse for the second application, and then I can add the extension. Click here to add the Visual Studio extension, Visual Studio Online extension. Okay, that's very quick. Let's click on it and browse on the editor of Visual Studio so we can delete the home page and load our own page, which is even simpler than the previous one, default.cs.html, because it misses the instructions to insert data into the database. It just reads from the database. So we have also the same header with the same image. So we can even copy this link and paste Ctrl V here. Okay. Now let's see how this application looks like in the browser. Let's click on refresh, and we get an error. The same generic error because we missed this web.config file that we are going to create now. Let's add it here, web.config, Ctrl V, and now let's go to runtime error and let's click on refresh. The error is clear now because the connection string is missing, but let's copy the string and let's put the string into the web application within the all settings, application settings, and the connection strings section. This is just the key, of course. So we have to define the value now. So let's park it here. And then let's come back to my application and let's check the template for the connection string that I wrote. As you know, we have to specify the server and the database. Now, the server is the SQL server hosted on the west coast of the United States, but the database that you remember we deleted a few minutes ago is the same name of the database that we have on the European data center. This means that the West Europe database must be replicated into the SQL server that is hosted on the US coast. So the server is hosted on the United States and the database is still hosted on the United States but is replicated from the European website. Now let's put the string and let's check what happens on the page. We still have an error, but the error will be different from this one concerning the string. In this case, in fact, says that it's impossible to open the database because simply the database does not exist on that server. In order to fix this problem, we simply have to replicate the European database into the US server. So we take the premium database, we activate the geo-replication. Now the system proposes me the other data centers where I can replicate the database. It proposes me the other European data center, which is reasonable, but in this case, for the purposes of this presentation, I will select the West US database. And in fact, I select this server, mm16WSVR, because it allows me to do it. Well, we gave all the information needed for the replication, so we just click on create, and in a few seconds, the replica will start. Okay, even with this animation, you see, meaning that the data is being replicated from Europe to US. By the way, the database is pretty small, but on the other hand, let's consider that the database is replicated 3 times in Europe and 3 times in US. So this is a sophisticated application from an architectural standpoint if we had to do it manually in our data center. So this is a full enterprise application and high resilient solution. Well, now the database is fully replicated, and now we can just refresh here and voila, I got the information replicated from Europe to US. Now, in order to see how long the synchronization actually takes from Europe to US, let's put the two applications side by side on the screen. West US on the left, West Europe on the right, and let's add a new product. Then, as soon as I will click on add on the right, I will go on the left and click on refresh to see if I am quick enough to click on refresh before the replication occurs. So to summarize, I will click on add and right after on refresh here. Add, refresh. No, I wasn't quick enough because while with the mouse I was moving from the right to the left, the replication occurred, and when I refreshed the page on the left, the replication had already occurred, quicker than me, even though the two data centers are thousands of miles far away from each other. Well, I hope that you found this presentation interesting, and I hope to see you soon. Ciao!